Treasury, our U.S. Treasury,
Yes.
did not label China a currency manipulator. They came close, but they did not say it directly.
Correct.
I'm going to ask you directly. Is China a currency manipulator?
No. By the standards that the government has to follow, which were set by Congress, they are not manipulating the currency. The key point there is whether or not they're intervening in the market to obtain an advantage from their currency vis-a-vis trade, and they're not.
That sounds a lot like manipulation, just a fancy way to say it.
It is, but the key is for an advantage in trade. That would mean they're manipulating to move the yuan lower against the dollar. In fact, they're not doing that. If they're doing anything, they're probably supporting it a little bit. The reason is the yuan is a managed currency. It trades on a band around a midpoint fixed by the Chinese central bank every day. I think yesterday it was 6.25%. So,
but there is a tiny sliver that trades sort of what they call the offshore yuan,
yes.
CNH, not CNY,
That's
sort of
correct.
the code that free floats a little bit.
You're right. But what has happened there is that the Chinese have actually, not recently, but back in 16 and the end of 16 and beginning of 2017, they actually intervened in that market because there was too much speculative excess, as they said. So people have calmed down in that market. It's not really moving as a free currency, even though it has a bit of freedom. If the Chinese yuan on the mainland was traded freely, it would probably be considerably lower against the dollar than it actually is. So that is a clear sign that they are not letting it go where it might, looking for trade advantage. So they're not a currency manipulator. If they wanted to use the yuan to...
Well, maybe they are, but the other way.
But the other way,
they're not
yes.
weakening their currency to gain a benefit for cheaper exports, mitigating maybe some of the negative or cost inflation from the tariffs.
You are correct. That's exactly what they're doing. But remember, the trade manipulation issue is one from the United States point of view that has to do with trade advantage. And the way to get a trade advantage if you're moving your currency is to make it weaker so that your exports are cheaper. They're actually not doing that. It isn't a two-way street. It's not just a definition of manipulation.
Okay. So and by the way, 99% of our audience probably doesn't trade China's currency on a daily basis.
Well, you really can't.
So you can't. So here's the thing. If the Chinese currency were to trade just free float, right, no government intervention, no band, no support, no nothing, right, as they say, would it be 7.5 to $1, 8 yuan to $1? No. How weak would it go?
It's a good question, and it's hard to tell, but I would say at least 8 to 1.
You think so?
I do, because the dispute with China is one that, in my view, the Chinese are going to have to settle towards the benefit of the United States.
Meaning what?
They're going to have to loosen some of their markets and stop some of the intellectual property issues that the U.S. has accused them, because I think the accusations are accurate and correct. Once they do that, they're going to have to find a way to use their own economy to support their own industrial base. They've not really done that successfully.
But that takes, listen, we learned this in the United States in the early 1900s. I'm not saying that's where China
correct.
is now, but that type of shift takes decades.
That is correct. You're absolutely
generations.
Correct. It also takes an attitude to permit and view the growth of a middle class, which is where you're looking for the consumption to come from. There are certain questions about whether or not this is actually something which the Chinese government is comfortable with. And those lead to political questions, because a large, active, and moneyed middle class is one which tends to look for its expressions outside of consumption. In the political arena, that could be an issue for the Chinese.